Welcome back to Cardiology Knowledge Hub. So today we're diving into a really exciting explainer of Dr. Shaima Zaidan's masterclass on the foundations of echocardiography. You know, as clinical detectives, we rely so heavily on our imaging tools every single day. But to truly master them, well, we have to look under the hood. Let's build that foundation together. We'll be working through this incredibly comprehensive lecture material titled Fundamentals for Clinicians from Dr. Zaidan, a cardiology consultant at El Sheikh Zayed Specialized Hospital. Our goal today is pretty straightforward. We're going to take what often feels like really dry, abstract physics concepts and completely translate them into practical, bedside clinical skills that you can literally use on your very next shift.
Here is our roadmap for today, designed specifically to give you that diagnostic edge. We'll start with why physics matters, move into the anatomy of a sound wave, tackle the frequency penetration trade-off, explore tissue interaction, and finally wrap up with some high-yield clinical pearls.
Okay, let's jump right into section 1. Why ultrasound physics actually matters to us as clinicians. Before we get into the heavy stuff, I want you to pause and just picture a real clinical dilemma. It's 3 a.m., you've got a crashing patient, and you're staring at a blurry, completely unreadable echo. The diagnosis is in there, hiding right in that static. How do we pull it out? When seconds count, how do we minimize those artifacts and optimize our images?
Well, understanding the physics of your machine is the direct solution to these 4 critical challenges. First off, image optimization. You just can't fix a bad window if you don't understand how the machine interprets depth. Second, accurate measurements. Think about it. Your chamber dimensions and valve areas completely rely on correct wave assumptions. Third, minimizing artifact. Knowing exactly what is a real physical structure versus a simple reverberation. That saves you from misdiagnosing a catastrophic dissection or a mass. And fourth, correcting wrong Doppler alignment ensures you aren't wildly underestimating a severe stenosis.
Moving right along to section 2, anatomy of a sound wave. Let's get microscopic for a minute. So by definition, ultrasound utilizes frequencies way above human hearing. And what's really wild here is the sheer scale of it all. Human hearing maxes out at about 20,000 hertz, right? But our echo probes, they generally operate between 2 and 10 megahertz. That is literally millions of cycles per second. And it's this incredibly high frequency that allows us to create such detailed, real-time internal imaging.
Now, to manipulate the machine effectively, you absolutely have to grasp these 4 core properties of sound waves. Frequency is simply the number of waves per second. Wavelength is the actual physical distance between 2 consecutive waves. Amplitude is the strength or height of the wave, which clinically translates to the loudness of the echo that returns to your probe. And finally, velocity is the speed at which that sound wave actually travels through the tissue.
Let's break down this incredibly crucial formula together. Think about the peaks and troughs of a wave mapped out over time. The distance from one peak to the very next one is your wavelength, and the height of that peak is your amplitude. Now, because the speed of sound in human soft tissue is a constant, 1540 meters per second to be exact, frequency and wavelength have a strict inverse relationship. If you crank up the frequency, the waves get squeezed closer together, meaning the wavelength gets shorter. Honestly, this single physical truth governs almost everything we do when it comes to probe selection.
Which brings us nicely to section 3, the frequency penetration trade-off.
Okay, this is our golden clinical rule. Burn this into your memory. As frequency increases, you gain resolution, but you lose deep tissue penetration. It's a fundamental trade-off. On the low-frequency end, around 1 to 5 megahertz, you've got your phased array probes, perfect for deep adult cardiac imaging. Moving a bit higher, to the 8 to 12 megahertz range, linear probes offer stunning resolution for superficial vascular work, but they just don't penetrate very deeply. And on the extreme high end, probes up to 18 megahertz give microscopic resolution for fields like dermatology or ophthalmology, but they can barely penetrate a few millimeters into the skin.
Let's ground this in a practical clinical scenario. Imagine you're doing an adult echocardiogram, and you're trying to visualize the left atrial appendage from the apical 4-chamber view. That structure is deep inside the chest, right? So you absolutely must use a 2 to 4 megahertz phased array probe. The lower frequency ensures the sound waves actually reach the structure and bounce back. But conversely, if you're examining the internal jugular vein in the neck for a central line placement, well, that structure is super superficial. Here you'd switch to a 9 to 12 megahertz linear probe to get crisp, high-resolution detail of the vein walls without hitting all those deeper, irrelevant structures.
Let's transition to section 4, tissue interaction and echogenicity. What actually happens when these waves hit tissue?
The primary phenomenon we rely on here is reflection.
This happens anytime ultrasound waves strike a boundary between two tissues that have different acoustic properties. For example, the boundary between heart muscle and blood. When the sound hits that boundary, a part of the ultrasound beam returns back to the probe as an echo, while the rest continues deeper until it hits the next boundary. So the really crucial takeaway here is that the image on your screen is entirely built from returning echoes. Your probe is quite literally both the speaker shouting into the body and the microphone listening for the bounce back.
So why is the blood pool black on our screens while the myocardium is gray? We can systematically decode echogenicity using this breakdown. Bone or heavy calcification, like a severely calcified aortic valve, is an incredibly strong reflector. It bounces almost all the sound back, appearing bright white or hyperechoic. Blood inside the cardiac chambers, on the other hand, has a uniform acoustic density, causing very little reflection. Because basically no echoes return from the blood, the machine just paints it black, or anechoic. The myocardium, however, is full of microscopic muscle fibers and collagen, creating all these tiny multiple interfaces. This causes a scattering of the ultrasound beam, which returns these mixed signals that produce that characteristic ray speckled appearance we are also used to seeing.
Finally, Section 5, let's pull everything together with some clinical pearls and takeaways.
Seriously, if you remember only one single thing from this entire explainer today, let it be this foundational rule of probe selection. Choose your probe frequency based on the depth of your target. High frequency for superficial structures, lower frequency for deeper structures. Fighting the physics will literally only lead to frustration, bad images, and worst of all, misdiagnosis.
Here is your rapid-fire summary to cap things off. Number 1. Understanding physics is absolutely not optional. It is the bedrock of diagnostic accuracy. Number 2. Our echo tools operate far above human hearing, typically at 2 to 10 megahertz. Number 3. Always remember the trade-off. Frequency is inversely related to penetration, but directly related to resolution. And number 4. The image you see is just a map of tissue reflections. Strong reflectors like calcification appear white, and non-reflecting fluids like blood appear black.
I want to leave you with a bit of a diagnostic challenge. The next time you're at the bedside and you encounter a blurry, frustrating image, don't just push harder on the patient's chest. Stop and ask yourself, which physics principle can I adjust right now? Am I using the right frequency for this depth? Am I dealing with a strong reflector that's causing an artifact? Step into the hospital today, apply these principles, and truly master the machine. Thank you so much for joining me on this Cardiology Knowledge Hub explainer. Keep learning, keep pushing yourselves, and keep saving lives. Catch you next time.